الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Respected brothers and sisters, all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has given us the opportunity to start our day with His house. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the khair of this day, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all types of evil. We ask Allah to help those who are going through difficult times. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease the pains who are in difficulty. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to help our brothers and sisters around the entire globe, and especially the ones in Gaza. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. When we talk about major sins, and this is the discussion that we've been having, one thing we have to understand that these sins, they don't get wiped away from the society. Rather, they just get more advanced and more sophisticated. And they have been presented in such ways that it will come a point where people will start making them as valuable in their lives. And this is, as we get closer to the Day of Judgment, as the time gets further away from the time of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the trials and fitans, they start to develop even more. Which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam warned us and said that سَتَكُونَ الْفِتَنْ كَقِطَعِ اللَّيْلِ الْمُظْلِمِ, that soon you will see such trials that they will be like the darkness of the night. During the darkness of the night, a person cannot recognize anything that is around him, and he cannot even recognize himself. Even if he was to look in the mirror, he cannot recognize him. Why? Because it's dark. And the darkness which Nabi alayhi salam refers to is the darkness of sin. Whenever a sin is committed, whenever a major sin, a haram act is committed, it develops darkness in the life of the person who is involved. And then that darkness multiplies to his family members, to his neighbors, to his community. And then, as the vice starts to progress and become more and more, this darkness, this dhulma, start to spread everywhere. And unfortunately, there will come a time where everybody will start talking about this evil act, and those who will speak against that evil act will become the target. So having to keep that in mind, because the subject that we're going to talk about is a very sophisticated subject, and that is transgender. Changing your identity on the base that Allah Azza wa Jal has created you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before you come into this world, when you are in the womb of your mother, before the ultrasound can even tell, the gender is known by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah has the power to decide who will be male and who will be female. Because this is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then these creation, they come into this world, influence of shaitan and nafs is so heavy that a person starts to get gender complex. That I'm not happy with my gender. Before, I wasn't happy with my life, now I'm not happy with my gender. Now, I should go and start changing. Maybe I don't have the same capacity to live like a man, or the vice versa. So I should go and change my gender. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal curses that person who even dresses like the opposite gender. Forget about changing the gender. Who even dresses like the opposite gender. Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu, once he was sitting and he saw a person who was a woman who was walking past, and he looked at her and he said, "Are you a man or a woman? Because I can't tell by your dress. I can't tell by your looks." He's like, "No, I'm a woman." He says, well, then you be under the curse of Allah throughout your life. You are going to be under the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what I said, that those people who talk about this vice, they become the target. Why? Because the society is there to accept it. And unfortunately, there are so many from the Muslim community who have gone into this complex of gender complex. And they're following the same footsteps has been laid down by those who are there to promote the action of shaitan. Because these are all part of the forces of shaitan. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran, وَاسْتَفْزِزْ مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ مِنْهُمْ بِصَوْتِكَ وَأَجْلِبْ عَلَيْهِمْ بِخَيْلِكَ وَرَجِلِكَ وَشَارِكْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ وَعِدْهُمْ وَمَا يَعِدُهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ إِلَّا غُرُورًا. That go ahead and use your forces, your voice, your looks, the way you are going to influence people. But remember, your promises will always be a deception. And this is all deception. There is no reality behind this. A person does not go through a successful life when he decides to go and change his gender against the one that Allah has created him with. And what are these? This person, his life becomes miserable. He cannot live up to that. Look at those people who actually went through this process. Now they regret it, but there is no going back to it. You cannot reverse it. So that's why a person needs to be following the orders of Allah subhanahu and be happy. Allah, the way He has made me, that's the way Allah wants me to be. Who I am today, Allah has sent me into this world to serve His purpose. I'm not here to serve my wants and desire. I'm here to do what Allah has commanded me. So this is from the major sins. That a person, he even shows an inclination towards the gender, against the gender that Allah Azza wa Jal has created him. And if he's trying to, adopt some of the attributes or characteristics or some of the ways of living of the opposite gender from the one that he is, then this person is under the curse of Allah Azza wa Jal 24/7. So that's why we have to, first of all, be content and happy, and at the same time, we have to educate ourselves, educate our surrounding, because the environment outside is very filthy. And environment outside is demoralizing to the standards that Allah Azza wa Jal has created, and it's motivation towards the standards that has been laid down by shaitan. So we have to again motivate ourselves on the standards in which Allah Azza wa Jal has made us, and then we have to work against the forces of shaitan so that we become successful when we depart from this world. We ask Allah to grant us the understanding. We ask Allah to protect us and our children and our generation. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to remove all filth from the universe. And we ask Allah to grant prosperity and happiness and blessing in this life. And we ask Allah to be happy with us when we depart from this world. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Subhanallahi wa bihamdi. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.